The old Ferrari sat under a faded gray cover at the center of the enormous showroom like a forgotten king buried beneath decades of dust. Sunlight poured through the glass ceiling, revealing tiny particles floating through the air as executives, journalists, collectors, and wealthy investors gathered around it with expressions filled with curiosity and doubt. No one noticed the quiet single father standing near the entrance with grease stains on his worn work shirt. No one imagined that within minutes, the impossible would happen, and a man everyone ignored would rewrite the future of everyone in that room. Before we begin, if you believe kindness, second chances, and ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who loves inspiring stories, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Your support helps us bring more emotional stories that remind the world hope still exists. Morning sunlight painted the city in warm golden colors as Rowan Mercer tightened the worn laces on his old work boots before quietly closing the apartment door behind him. Inside, his 8-year-old daughter, Hazel, was still asleep on the couch that doubled as her bed whenever she insisted on waiting for him to come home from late repair jobs. Life had never been generous to Rowan. 5 years earlier he had lost his wife during complications following a sudden illness, leaving him with overwhelming hospital bills, a frightened little girl, and a tiny neighborhood garage that barely earned enough to keep the lights on. Every morning began the same way. He prepared breakfast before sunrise, packed Hazel's lunch, walked her to school, then spent long hours repairing cars that wealthier mechanics considered worthless. People rarely thanked him. They simply expected miracles because Rowan charged less than everyone else. Despite everything, he never allowed bitterness to settle in his heart. His late wife had once told him that machines were honest because they never lied. If they refused to run, there was always a reason, and patience could always uncover the truth. Rowan carried those words with him every day. Whenever customers abandoned impossible repair jobs, he accepted them with quiet determination, believing every broken machine deserved one more chance before being forgotten forever. That particular morning began differently. His old flip phone rang just after he opened the garage. An unfamiliar voice introduced herself as the assistant to Billionaire automotive CEO Aldrich Vaughn. Rowan almost laughed, convinced someone was playing a cruel joke. The woman calmly explained that Vaughn Motors was hosting an exclusive exhibition featuring a legendary Ferrari that had remained silent for 20 years despite countless restoration attempts by the world's finest engineers. A veteran mechanic who knew Rowan's reputation had recommended his name at the last moment after refusing to attend because of illness. Rowan nearly declined. Rich executives rarely respected mechanics like him. But when the assistant mentioned generous payment simply for examining the vehicle, he thought about Hazel's overdue school tuition and accepted. Less than 2 hours later Rowan walked through towering glass doors into a world that seemed designed for people unlike him. Expensive suits, polished marble floors, luxury watches, and exotic supercars surrounded him from every direction. Several guests glanced at his faded clothes before looking away with quiet judgment. He ignored every stare. Years of hardship had taught him that dignity came from actions, not appearances. At precisely 11 o'clock, CEO Aldrich Vaughn stepped onto the stage. He possessed the confidence of someone accustomed to success. Cameras flashed while reporters leaned forward expecting another unforgettable publicity event. Vaughn smiled toward the audience before dramatically pulling away the protective cover. A breathtaking crimson Ferrari emerged beneath decades of careful preservation. Its paint still shimmered beneath layers of dust. Every elegant curve reflected engineering perfection frozen in time. Yet everyone knew the heartbreaking truth. The engine had remained silent for 20 years despite unlimited budgets, factory specialists, collectors, historians, and restoration experts attempting to awaken it. Vaughn explained the car's extraordinary history. Built as a rare experimental prototype, it had belonged to his late father, who dreamed of restoring it himself before passing away unexpectedly. Since then, every attempt to start it had ended in disappointment. The Ferrari became more than a vehicle. It became a symbol of unfinished dreams. One after another, famous mechanics inspected the engine. Computers were connected. Diagnostic equipment displayed endless data. Specialists debated electrical systems, fuel delivery, compression ratios, ignition timing, and electronic modules. Nearly an hour passed without success. The audience began whispering that history would repeat itself. Finally Vaughn sighed before looking toward Rowan, almost as an afterthought. Many people exchanged doubtful smiles. Some reporters quietly lowered their cameras, assuming the event had already failed. Rowan approached slowly without rushing. Instead of immediately opening the hood, he walked around the Ferrari several times. He crouched beside each wheel. He studied tiny gaps in the body panels. He inhaled deeply near the fuel cap. He gently placed one weathered hand against the hood as though listening to the heartbeat of an old friend. The room fell unusually quiet. Rowan finally opened the engine compartment and smiled almost invisibly. He noticed something everyone else had overlooked because they trusted computers more than experience. During a restoration years earlier, a nearly invisible grounding strap had been installed with the slightest twist. It wasn't broken. It wasn't disconnected. It simply prevented a perfect electrical path under starting load. Every sophisticated diagnostic system considered it acceptable, but Rowan knew older Italian performance engines demanded absolute precision. He loosened one small connection. He cleaned it using nothing more than a cloth from his pocket. He tightened it carefully. Then he adjusted one tiny fuel linkage that had stiffened after years without movement. The entire room watched in silence. Rowan climbed into the driver's seat. He closed his eyes for one brief second, almost thanking the machine for waiting so patiently. He turned the key. For an instant nothing happened. Then the starter motor spun. A deep mechanical cough echoed across the showroom. Another cough followed. Suddenly the Ferrari exploded into life with a magnificent roar that shook the glass walls and echoed through every corner of the building. Birds outside scattered into the bright blue sky. Journalists froze in disbelief. Executives stared speechless. Collectors wiped tears from their eyes. The sound wasn't merely an engine starting. It was 20 years of silence ending. Aldrich Vaughan stood completely still as tears slowly formed in his eyes. He remembered watching his father lovingly polish that same Ferrari when he was a child. For the first time since losing him, the familiar engine note filled the air exactly as he remembered decades earlier. Nobody applauded immediately. Everyone simply listened. The Ferrari idled smoothly beneath the afternoon sunlight as though it had never stopped running at all. Only after several unforgettable seconds did thunderous applause erupt throughout the showroom. News cameras rushed toward Rowan. Reporters demanded interviews. Social media exploded before the event had even ended. Yet Rowan quietly stepped away from the spotlight. He switched off the engine, closed the hood with gentle respect, and thanked the staff before preparing to leave. To him, the job was finished. Vaughn stopped him before he reached the exit. Looking around at everyone present, the billionaire publicly admitted something no one expected. He confessed that during the past 20 years he had spent millions chasing prestige instead of wisdom. He hired famous experts because their reputations impressed investors, but never considered that genuine brilliance might exist inside a tiny neighborhood garage owned by a struggling father. That confession spread across every news channel by evening. The next morning Rowan returned to his modest garage expecting another ordinary day. Instead he found a line of customers stretching around the block. Television vans parked outside. Former clients returned simply to thank him. Parents brought old family cars hoping the gentle mechanic who revived a legendary Ferrari could save vehicles filled with their own memories. Business transformed overnight. Yet Rowan refused to increase his prices unfairly. Wealthy collectors paid premium rates, allowing him to continue helping struggling families at affordable costs. His small garage became a place where compassion mattered as much as craftsmanship. A month later Aldrich Vaughan visited again, this time without cameras. He carried a simple wooden box. Inside rested the original Ferrari ignition key. He told Rowan the key represented faith, patience, and humility more than wealth. Instead of offering another publicity event, Vaughan proposed something unexpected. He wanted Rowan to lead a new apprenticeship program that trained young mechanics from disadvantaged backgrounds. Tuition would be completely free. Students would learn not only engineering but honesty, responsibility, and respect. Rowan accepted immediately because he remembered what it felt like when no one believed in him. Years passed. Hazel grew into a confident teenager who proudly watched her father inspire hundreds of apprentices. Many graduates opened successful workshops across the country, creating jobs and restoring hope inside communities that desperately needed both. The famous Ferrari remained inside Vaughan Motors, but one small brass plaque beneath it told visitors the real story. It did not celebrate horsepower. It did not celebrate luxury. It simply read, "Never underestimate the hands that have spent a lifetime solving problems no one else was willing to touch." Thousands of visitors paused to read those words every year. Some smiled. Some cried. Many left believing people deserved second chances just as much as machines did. Rowan never considered himself extraordinary. He still woke before sunrise. He still packed Hazel's breakfast. He still wore work shirts stained with honest labor. The only difference was that now people noticed him, not because he had started a priceless Ferrari in 2 minutes, but because he reminded the world that greatness often hides behind ordinary faces. Money can buy beautiful cars. Power can build magnificent companies. Fame can fill newspapers. But humility, perseverance, and kindness are the qualities that truly change lives. As Rowan locked the garage one peaceful evening, Hazel slipped her hand into his and smiled. She told him her mother would have been proud. For the first time in many years, Rowan looked toward the glowing sunset without feeling the weight of yesterday. He realized success wasn't measured by luxury, awards, or headlines. It was measured by the lives quietly changed because one person refused to give up. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartline Stories. Every interaction helps us continue sharing stories that inspire hope, compassion, and second chances.